Hello students. Today I'm going to be teaching you 3 principles to follow when you're writing about literature, since you're writing a literary analysis. And each of these is really about taking your writing and pushing out unneeded words and squeezing out things that you don't need so that your writing becomes more concise. The first principle is, of course, using the active voice when possible when you're writing about literature. Are there times to use the passive voice? Yes. However, normally when you're writing about literature, you want your voice to sound powerful and potent, and so the active voice is best for doing that. So here's an example of some typical student writing, as you can see right here. In the lottery, Mrs. Hutchinson is not given a chance to explain why she should not be stoned to death. When she said it isn't fair, no response is offered. As she protests, stones are flung at her as her voice and the voice of reason is silenced. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with this sentence or with this little group of sentences. They are grammatically correct. They're just not powerful. They are weak. And the reason is the passive voice used by me. There, I just use a passive voice sentence to say that. So what then can you do to make this active? Well, that's your assignment in class, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some things you could do. It says, how do you make this active voice? Well, what you can do is take the first sentence and look at it. It says, in the lottery, Mrs. Hutchinson is not given a chance to explain why she should not be stoned to death. Well, the question is, who's doing this verb? Who's giving her a chance? Wouldn't it be the citizens of the town? So you then just make that the subject of this verb, and suddenly it'll come into play. I mean, it'll make sense. So if you say the citizens do not give Mrs. Hutchinson a chance to explain why, and now it says she should not be stoned to death. Instead, say a chance to explain why they should, I'm going to say, refrain from stoning her. Now everything is in the active voice. The citizens are the ones giving, they are the ones refraining, so it's in the active voice. And you'll notice that it's shorter. The next one says, when she says it isn't fair, no response is offered. Instead, you could say, they don't respond when she claims it isn't fair. Okay? See what I did there? And then you could figure out how to do the last part there. So when you put it into active voice, suddenly the writing comes to life more, it is more powerful, it is stronger, and when I'm reading that, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. It sounds like you are an expert, where if you put it in the passive voice, you sound weak. Secondly, try to avoid using to be verbs too much. Now, you can use to be verbs. You're going to need to use them sometimes. But what happens is students become too dependent on them, and it's not because to be verbs are bad. It's because students are not trying to think of good active verbs and good nouns that will actually work in the sentence and make it more concise. That's the issue, is that you're not using the verbs at your disposal that would sound better, would be more accurate with their connotations. Let me give you an example. Here's some typical student writing. In the lottery, Mrs. Hutchinson is happy and cheerful as she gets to the lottery. The people are not showing signs of anxiety at first. The reader is actually excited to learn what the lottery is. Lots of to be verbs there, and I bolded them for you. So, how do I avoid to be verbs and make this writing more concise? Well, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. Instead of saying she is happy and cheerful, how could I show that? Well, I could do it with a quote. I could say she says, and then write down what she says. That would be a way to prove that she's happy and cheerful. Or I could say, Mrs. Hutchinson, though late, saunters to the lottery without the least least bit of anxiety in her voice. There we go. There, I took those two sentences, put them together, and I didn't use a to be verb. Okay, I said saunters, and what happens there is because the word saunters indicates walking with a little bit of buoyancy, a little bit of confidence, and without any sign of anxiety when you saunter. Therefore, it takes away that anxiety, right? It says the reader is actually excited to learn what the lottery is. Instead, I could put the reader does not suspect anything bad. I could use a different word, but I'm doing this off the top of my head. I would go back. Anything bad about to happen. Okay? See what I'm doing there? That makes sense. And so what I did is I got rid of the to be verbs. I used verbs that are more accurate and more concise. Now finally, this is your third principle here. Use the present tense when referring to something in the story, even if it is referring to something in the past. So here we have, in the lottery, Mrs. Hutchinson acted totally happy when she arrived. She did not indicate that she could possibly lose her life. The people were joking, etc., etc. So all you have to do is go through here and put it in the present tense. Preferably not the progressive present. That would be like using were joking here. You wouldn't want to say the people are joking. You would just want to say the people joke when she arrives. So I could write it all out. Instead, this is easy to just state, right? In the lottery, Mrs. Hutchinson acts totally happy when she arrives. She does not indicate that she could possibly lose her life. The people are joking when she arrives late. The people joke when she arrives late, which makes the reader think everything is okay. See what I did there? Very easy. I don't have to write it all out. You could do that on your own. So you always use the present tense when referring to literature, even if it's something that happened in the past. I hope this has been helpful in you revising your papers so that it's more concise, more accurate, and more powerful, which ultimately that's what you're wanting. You're wanting a piece of writing that is powerful for me as I read about your analysis of whatever you're doing. Have a great day.